Tell me what you're planning to do on Election Day.
I plan on going in to the voting center where I voted for the last 9 years with my voter registration card and no picture ID.
So there's a law in Tennessee that says you got to have a picture ID to vote. So what happens when they tell you, or I'd say the likelihood they tell you can't vote, sir, if you don't show a picture ID?
What happens is I lose my right to vote. They've taken that away from me. They've stripped me of what I earned in my service, and these guys have fought and died in World War I, World War II, and every war since then. They've stripped us of that right. Nobody gave it to me. I earned that. I earned it by serving my country. It's not just me. It's the people that can't vote, the people that maybe don't have the birth certificate to get the state ID. It has to be a state issue ID. It's all the college kids that have IDs, but it's not acceptable because you have to go get a state ID. That's unacceptable. That's a condition. And the poor people that can't afford to get out, or the 80-year-old woman that can't vote, has voted all her life, but now she can't vote because she can't produce a birth certificate. Yeah, I'm tired of it. I'm pissed off. I want people to get off their ass and do whatever it takes to fight this law and to be able to vote this year in the presidential election. They're trying to stop us from voting.
Well, you go to the go, man?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
All right. So you've been up half the night? Is that what I heard you say?
Been up since about 4 o'clock thinking about it. Look at my hands. I gotta drink some coffee. Just calm myself down. I ain't afraid.
No,
just
I know you're
nervous. Never done this before.
I think you told me Marines don't get afraid, right?
No, we're not afraid. We adapt. We improvise. And then we overcome.
That's right. Any sense right now of going, forget it, I don't think I'm going to do this today?
No, the more I think about it, the more I feel more powerful.
Yeah.
Because of who I am and what's been instilled inside of me. I can't imagine how the guys felt when they stormed the beaches in Iwo Jima and Guadalcanal that earned us this right. I couldn't imagine, but if it felt any way or anyhow that I feel right now, damn, it took a lot. But yeah, sure, I'm nervous about what I'm getting ready to do, but somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to make a stand. So it's got to be me. It will be me.
So this is very much tied in with your background as a Marine, this action.
Yes, it is, because I took the oath. I took an oath, and we all take an oath to defend America. We take an oath to defend Americans and their rights, all rights, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, but more important, the basic right is the freedom to vote. And when our governor of this state and other governors pass laws that infringe on our rights and adds conditions to our rights, what gives them the right? This is not a gift. The voting is not a gift that we received from them. Mm-hmm. This was earned. This was earned. People pay for this with their own blood. I pay for it by my service. And I'll be damned if anybody passes a law that tells me I can't vote. And I will not abide by it.
Tennessee also held a presidential primary on Tuesday, but this year's primary was different from every other year's because back in June, that state's Republican governor signed a new law that says you can't vote in Tennessee anymore unless you can show documentation at the polls that you never had to show before. And not every voter who wanted to vote on Tuesday got to vote. In this case, a 55-year-old retired U.S. Marine.
Calm down. You gotta calm down, man. Dave, help me out, man. Calm down.
You're doing correct.
I've never done this before, so it's my first time. I can imagine what them guys that ran up on them beaches that did this for us went through.
Today, we did find a former veteran who wanted to take a stand against the new state ID law and refusing to use an ID to vote today, even though he has one. Now, this was over at Delwood Baptist Church this morning.
This Tennessee Marine had the right ID to be able to vote, but he chose not to submit it as a cost of getting his ballot. He chose not to in protest.
This is my voter registration card? Yes, sir. I've used this for 37 years. This was good enough for my father. It was good enough for my grandfather. And I refuse to show you a picture ID.
That's fine. Would you like to vote a provisional ballot?
No, I do not. You don't get me right. I object to the law.
Thompson is protesting the new photo ID law, which requires every Tennessean to show a state or federally issued photo ID in order to vote.
I served my country. I served my country so you could vote. I've earned my right to vote. This is my ID. This is my ID. And I'll be damned if I'll stand here and allow you to not let me vote because some governor of this state decided he wanted to eliminate my right to vote and put conditions on it that I fought for.
And they're only aware of a handful of people who actually showed up to the polls without a picture ID. We know of at least 3 of those that did it on purpose. Timothy Thompson and his wife are among them. He does have a picture ID, but purposely brought his voter's card as a form of protest.
I want you to say it, that you're telling me I cannot vote today. I want you to say it.
I am saying you
under
may
the
vote.
law.
Yeah, under the law, you may not vote without an ID unless you want to vote a provisional
You're
ballot.
telling a U.S. Marine that.
Yes.
That's what you're telling me that.
Yes.
Guys like me, guys that fought for this country and died for this country, they paid for us to be able to vote. And that's why I object to this law. He has no right to pass this law. This law is very unconstitutional.
Yeah,
If you're not voting, you need to
I'll
leave.
leave. But
not
I'm
allowed
glad
in
you
the-
said that because
You're not
everybody
allowed-
that's seeing this right now will see that when this governor says anything about this
Sir, you
law.
must leave right now.
Thank you.
Tim Thompson was asked to leave when he denied voting by provisional ballot. He says his message is this: he and others risk their lives for everyone to vote, the freedom to vote, so paying for an ID or birth certificate is just not right.
Thompson could have cast a provisional ballot and returned within 2 days with a proper ID. Instead, he walked away without voting.
This is good enough. It was good enough for my father. It was good enough for my grandfather, and it's damn good enough for me.
Tell me what's going on with you right now physically. I mean, you seem like tense, riled up, shaking a little bit. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm shaken up. I mean, I've never done anything like this before.
You were basically doing it to show that you're mad about it, right? I mean, it's protest.
When I took my oath, it was for all people, all Americans, Republican, Democrat, black, white. It didn't matter what color you were or what religion you believed in. It didn't matter. It was for all Americans. And that's what Marines fight for. And that's what all men and women fight for. It's for all the Americans, not just a few that they agree with or disagree with. It's for everybody.
You knew you weren't probably going to be able to vote. You knew that the law was going to be the law. They were going to have to enforce the law the way it was.
I was willing to sacrifice my vote to stand up today and represent all the people that's not going to be able to vote. The students that want to vote and have voted last year. It was awesome to see these young people come out to vote, but now this law has restricted them. How discouraging that must be for these young kids. For these young kids.
Fans.
For these young kids to have to go out and get another ID that they've always been able to vote on their student ID. But here, they gotta go get another ID. It's a basic right. It's our duty to vote. I've been told all my life, it's your patriotic duty to vote.
At the end of the day, you didn't get to vote. Do you feel like you accomplished something today? What do you feel like you accomplished, and how do you feel about it?
Well, did I accomplish anything? Time will tell. Don't let your right to vote stop because these politicians have passed a law that limit you to vote. That's exactly what they want to do. This will affect 3 to 5 million voters in the next election if this law stays in place. So don't let it affect the next election. Do not.
we've talked a lot about it, but I'm just curious what you hope will be the outcome of your action. I mean, what are you hoping will happen?
What we should do is vote those people out of office that put this law in effect, because they don't have our rights in the best interest. They don't have the American people's rights in the best interest. If they want to put a condition on our rights, that's not justice. That's not what we voted them in office for. We voted them into office to take care of our rights, to protect our rights. If they continue passing these laws, we need to vote them out of office and change it. That's what we need to do. And we can do that. We can make a difference if we join together. Both parties, both sides. We got to fight this law. We got to make it happen. And we can make it happen.